Hello, and welcome to another installment of Foundational Foundry, the tutorial series from the Foundry Roundtable. I'm Green Dragoon, and with me are my co-hosts, Drogon1701,
Hello.
Mark Hockman,
Hey.
and Duncan Idaho.
Hardly.
We've been building our introductory demonstration mission, and in the last episode, we started building our final boss fight to cap off our mission. In this episode, we'll continue that effort. I had just finished laying down the objectives for this scene, and I did this so we can set up some state transitions in order to trigger an invisible cage for our enemy group. This way, we'll be able to control exactly when the battle begins. So it's basically after they get through that initial opening dialogue. And I don't want to have to set all of these later. So I set them now, then I can copy paste, and that indicates. No fun trying to do this after the fact. Okay. So that'll kind of contain our NPCs until we're ready for them to fight. Edge them as best I can. I want my NPC groups close enough that once the walls drop, they'll kind of start going to town on each other.
The little blue circle that you see around an NPC group is what we call their agro range. It's the range in which they will see an enemy and go start to fight them. Whether the enemy is the player or an NPC of the opposite faction.
They won't necessarily attack immediately, but they won't notice you if you're outside that range. I think it's like some sort of like a % chance thing or whatever. When you get up close to them, you know, the closer you get, the more likely they are to preemptively attack you.
I'll admit I've never done extensive testing as to whether or not the agro range of circles actually corresponds. And in fairness, I think at best it's only representative, because each NPC within a NPC group has their own agro distance, and obviously the blue circle is from the center of the group, which really doesn't represent anything. So,
well, unless you keep the group together.
Well, one observation I made is that the blue circle is approximately 30 meters. Which is the standard weapon range in the game.
But as a general rule of thumb, if you've got, like we're doing here, where you have enemy and friendly mobs that you want to fight each other, make sure to put them within each other's blue circle.
all right, so let's move on, and next we're going to set up Captain that you investigate once you've... I'm going to do something here, and it's probably... If this is going to be like a first wave, I want to have one that's stronger. That kind of represents the captain. Swap out one of these guys. In fact, I might just swap out both. Ryan's, well, that's, want to do a commander group supported by an ensign group?
One quick shortcut to changing NPC mobs. You can double click the icon in the center of their blue circle, and that'll immediately bring up the list of NPCs. And you can just switch the type right there.
Yep. Or you can click on down here on the encounter field. Fun part is which of these guys is the commander.
You can also copy paste mobs.
Sometimes that actually doesn't work for whatever reason. Sometimes when placing mobs, you'll notice that the copy paste button will stop working at a certain point.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
A little bit of troubleshooting to do. And what you have to do then is just to place any detail object, delete it, and then you're good. It's just like sometimes it just sort of gets stuck on the copy paste. So if you place any other object at that point, I'm not sure about mobs, but I just go to a detail object. You'll let it'll start working again.
Well, what I've noticed not having issues with copy pasting them is it doesn't work if you attempt to only copy part of the mob. You have to get the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Velocitore mentioned a good point about how you can use patrols to make enemy groups mobile, so that they may or may not walk up to you while you're fighting somebody or something.
Some fun things you can do with patrols. You can obviously have it like circumnavigating an area, and have it so that the player has to avoid the patrols, or you can do something where the enemies are running towards you, and so you set up a patrol that leads them directly to where the player will be.
It's also good for just background details on NPCs when you've just got an area to populate and you want to say have a security bomb moving through there. You can set it even if it's like a social non-combat area. You can use a patrol on a friendly group just to say, hey, they've got some people moving around.
Yeah, and any mob that's not a mission contact NPC.
Yep.
Of course, with cryptic, mission contact NPCs and mobs are not necessarily separate entities. They can have units that do both.
All right, just a note here. I went ahead and spawned my group over off to the side, left my away team behind, and then approached them with the untargetable mode selected so that they won't attack me. And then I can see right here that, oh, this guy, think about it, the map kind of looks like this from, we can kind of tell this is the commander right here. And so now we can go back into the editor, find that particular guy, and we know he's going to be our captain. That was
That's definitely a good way to figure out who is who. Because I think I've done it before where I tried to reskin the strongest mob as the boss, and I actually ended up with one of the weaker ones.
Yeah. Well, what I do when I'm doing this is I'll look at the individual actors in the editor and assign numbers to them. Because if you leave the default names, they're just going to give you the actual name of that enemy and not the they won't have that number tag on it that you see attached to the asset in the editor. You never see that in the game. So what I would do is like assign numbers to each of the individual enemies in the mob, and then preview it to see what that looks like in the game.
Yeah, I'll do that as well when I simply don't want to think about orienting a view of a mob to what I'm seeing in the editor and what I see in the live game. I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's like, oh, it's number 2. I've got you now.
all right.
So did we define who our enemy boss was in a previous episode? Dragoon, since you have better
other than just being Orions. No.
Okay.
But I was looking
So we
through
can choose one now.
I was looking through the Orions, and I wasn't happy with any of the stock options. They just looked too generic to me. And all the captains are females. And
so let's make our own.
So let's make our own. So
yeah,
the Orions.
Can we actually duplicate the look that Hassan uses at all?
You
He
can
might
probably
be
get pretty
too
close.
fat.
Yeah, so Orions are under the Klingon or the KDF when you're in the costume creator. Zero
Although
makes a good point that all of the captains are females. Of course they are, because we know from Enterprise and Orion Society that the females are actually in charge of everything.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're
That was an interesting plot twist.
Well, one thing I feel the need to point out right now is that since Orions are basically just humans with green skin, you can make aliens that look exactly like Orions
Also,
relatively easily.
and that can give you some more options to play with as far as costume.
So if you want to use a Starfleet only costume on an Orion, you can do that. Which, to my knowledge, is the only way to make an Orion that has Borg implants, because last I checked, you couldn't use the 7 of 9 costume parts on any KDF allied character. Oddly enough, you can use them on Romulans if you're allied with the Federation only. I know, it's weird.
So another thing to point out, though, that even though it is canon that Orion females are in control of everything, when you're making a Foundry mission, you don't necessarily have to stick with canon.
well, I mean, just because the girls are in charge doesn't necessarily mean the that all the ships are commanded by.
Also true. So you can either throw out canon, or you can add to it whatever you like, or be a strict adherent of canon. It's all up to you.
Yeah, it's not like the male Orions never do anything important. It's just that each of them works for one or more of the female Orions.
Ultimately, since the leader of the Orion Syndicate is a female, you go high enough and you'll.
I mean, like Hassan, you never see who he's directly working for, but it's implied to be Melanie Dean.
No, he always kind of struck me as kind of an outlier, somebody kind of doing their own thing.
Well, I kind of think that he was more or less, what's the best way to put this? Melanie gave him certain objectives, and and left it up to his discretion how to achieve those objectives.
Give him the tiny eyes, because we all know that makes you evil. Make him look nice and angry. Okay. Orions are one of the few races that you can really go chested on.
They have a lot of unique costume options. Well, to be fair, each of the KDF races has some sort of unique costume options that no other race in the game gets. With Orions, it's those headpieces and certain armor options, actually, which never made any sense to me because they're kind of generic-looking armor pieces. Nausicaans have this cuirass style body armor that you never see on anyone else. Well, you can't put it on anyone else as a player, let's put it that way. Gorn, well, they're giant lizard people, and yeah, there's that. I think they have some unique stuff. I don't remember exactly what it is.
They've got a couple of spiky wrist bracers and a collar and Gorn feet. And for some reason, we still have the old bulk physique sliders, at least in the Foundry when working with these guys. So just for a quick body variation, that's easy way to go to. So if we want to say make our dude kind of the Roid Rage type, we can do that. We can also make him the Hassan type really easily just with those two. So we don't need to go through the full list of body sliders.
I know people who spend quite a lot of time on their characters. Like Duncan here, in fact. He's a frequent tweeter of his work with the character creator and creates quite some awesome things, I have to say.
My latest one was the basically the main species in the first Federation, so the Tranya guy. That actually worked out really well.
Yeah,
I think the most work I ever spent on a single NPC was when I made Linnea for that New Year's mission.
Yeah. One of the things that we've had people do is try and recreate, like you say, in-game NPCs that we don't have available as costumes. And some of those sliders are actually available to people can have a look at and try and recreate for themselves.
I've got to say, one of the most complicated slider jobs I've done for an NPC character is Hazra, who I nominated for the AEI.
And who won, in fact.
Yeah, let's just say I didn't see him look right, just because it's really difficult to get just to get that character right, because it's using the irregular head and trying to make that not look like a potato.
I was actually real surprised we got access to that particular head.
That's been so useful.
Yes, it has. Been fantastic.
It was the main. I used it for the main race in my last mission. It's going to come up again in my next mission. It's a really nice sort of semi-humanoid, but not like guy in a rubber mask. Well, simple rubber mask or simple forehead treatment type job. So it's really great if you really want a alien species that looks very unusual.
The irony of that is that basically that's what we're doing, is creating the kind of aliens that we always used to see on Star Trek, which are basically just human actors with some sort of prosthesis and makeup. The rubber forehead alien.
I want to go to I still want to have a little bit more control over the the TOS species of the fancy hat aliens. So you only have like 2 hats.
Yeah, that is a bit of
the
a
Bajoran
bummer.
hats, and then we got the winter anniversary hats, which I've used quite a lot.
On the upside, we do have the ability. Wait, how many different colors does a Bajoran head actually use? I just thought of that. Is it the single color, or does it have 2 or 3? Because if you have several color options, you can make them look different just by recoloring them.
Dragoon is going very red with his costume here.
I want to make him stand out.
It really kind of clashes with that skin tone, I gotta say. But
Yeah, he's a Christmas
okay.
Orion. All right, I realize you guys are a few seconds behind, but I think that's not looking too bad.
I do actually like the color contrast on this, because one thing you notice in the TV shows is that you never see Orions wearing green, ever. Wait, okay, there's one case, but she actually wore this weird dress that was a mixture of blue and green. It wasn't solid green.
All I remember is the alligator dress. Cage.
I wasn't thinking of that one. I was actually thinking of the Orion woman from Whom Gods Destroy.
Oh, you mean the crazy one who keeps stealing Shakespeare?
Yeah, that one.
All right, I think that's going to work.
Yeah, he's a standout.
Made him a little less green, so he's probably a little more yellow. But according to the character creator, this is valid. All right, that's good.
Honestly, I really wish that we had a few more options for Ryan's skin tones, because when you look at the TV shows, there actually was a certain level of variation in the TV show that we don't have in game.
Okay, so back to my
Back to your
I
map
got my
here.
Orion captain. I didn't bother to give him a name.
We
Not
just
there
call him
long
the
enough.
Orion Captain. And you notice that when we created a custom costume, it is at the top of the NPC list, which is very nice.
Yep. I can leave all the others as default. About this group because I'm actually gonna second. I'm hoping I don't. Second group of that kind of just intermixes the just giving it a name here so that tell the two waves apart when I try to hook all this up.
There you go. Sometimes it pays to keep things organized.
As far as I'm aware, that no player will ever be able to see this, but all right, we are going to have to end it there for tonight, but in the next episode, we'll continue our work and start building the second wave of our attack. Until then, though, we will say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.